Hello everyone, my name is Richard House and this is the news for February 20th, 2007. The BBC has revealed what it says are the plans for a U.S. strike against Iran's nuclear facilities. The plans also entail the destruction of much of Iran's military installations. According to the BBC, diplomatic sources have told them that senior officials in the United States administration have already selected a list of possible targets within Iran. In the event that it is decided, military action against Iran should be taken. The BBC correspondent says that two possible triggers for a U.S. strike are a high number of casualties in Iraq or substantial proof that Iran intends to develop nuclear weapons. Middle East analysts have recently voiced their fears of catastrophic consequences for any such U.S. attack on Iran. Britain's previous ambassador to Tehran, Sir Richard Dalton, told the BBC it would backfire badly by probably encouraging the Iranian government to develop a nuclear weapon in the long term. Iran is planning to develop nuclear weapons. Everyone knows that President Ahmadinejad has repeatedly stated his intentions to, quote, wipe Israel off the map, and has obtained information on how to build nuclear warheads on the black market. Javier Solana, the High Representative for the European Commune, Foreign and Security Policy, has stated the diplomatic option will not prevent Iran from acquiring the material to produce a nuclear weapon. So, for Iran, it's a win-win situation. If the U.S. and Israel try to intervene after diplomacy fails, Iran will claim it needs nuclear weapons to defend itself and develop them anyway. Either way, Iran will get its conflict with the West, and in particular, Israel, sooner or later. U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas met for dialogue over the revival of the U.S.-based Roadmap to Peace document. The three reaffirmed their commitments to peace, but as expected, no real progress could be made due to the failure of the Mecca deal to abide by the quartet's, that is the European Union, United States, United Nations, and Russia's three principles. It has also been announced that Israel may press for a meeting between the U.S., Jordan, Egypt, and the Palestinians. Following the meeting, it became known that Israel is weighing the possibility of a summit with Jordan, Egypt, the Palestinians, and the Americans in order to continue the diplomatic dialogue. Diplomatic sources stress that if such a meeting materializes, it will not include a discussion over controversial issues such as Jerusalem, the refugee problem, and the withdrawal to the 1967 lines. Israel has already brokered peace agreements with both Jordan and Egypt, and I guess they could put further pressure on Hamas to comply and get the economic embargo lifted. In other news, Turkey has announced its support for the Saudi-based peace initiative, which offers Israeli full Arab recognition in return for a withdrawal from the lands captured during the Six-Day War. So far, 7 nations have accepted the peace plan: Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Egypt, Jordan, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Turkey. The initiative also includes the creation of a multinational Muslim peacekeeping force comprising troops from core organizations of Islamic countries, also known as the OIC. Some observers have described it as the creation of a Sunni bloc aimed at curbing Shiite majority, Iran's growing influence in the Middle East. But I don't believe the Muslims can ever recognize Israel's right to exist, even with the 1967 borders. As we have seen, there are Egyptian MPs who believe the war with Israel continues despite their peace agreement, and of course the Bible states that one day all the nations of the world will gather themselves against Jerusalem. For those interested in looking it up, it's Zechariah chapter 14, verse 2. It also seems that Turkey is continuing to get involved in the conflict in the Middle East. Last week, Turkish Prime Minister Erdogan, I guess is his name, also became involved in the dispute surrounding the construction work at the Temple Mount. And the Bible states this will eventually lead Turkey aligning itself with Gog and commencing the invasion of Israel as described in Ezekiel chapters 38 and 39. The source for this news report is Ynet News and ADNKI. The Times newspaper has revealed today that plans are to be published this year on proposals to reunite the Anglican and Catholic churches. The two bodies hope to find enough common ground between them which will enable them to unite under the leadership of Pontifex Maximus, also known as the Pope. This will be ending a 4-year-old division. The Anglican Church split from Rome in the 1600s during the Reformation period. Before the Reformation period, the Pope ruled Europe by force and overthrew countries that refused to pledge allegiance to his authority. Only Rome can claim the description in Revelation as a city that has ruled over kings, which is Revelation chapter 17, verse 18. Christian groups that were persecuted by Rome include the Waldensians and the Huguenots. These are just to name a few. But after the scriptures were published in the English language in Britain, the Pope's authority was rejected as unscriptural and anti-Christic, meaning someone attempting to take the place of Christ, the head of the Church. In one significant passage, the report notes the Roman Catholic Church teaches that the ministry of the Bishop of Rome, who is the Pope, as universal primate is in accordance with Christ's will for the Church, an essential element of maintaining it in unity and truth. Anglicans rejected the Bishop of Rome as universal primate in the 16th century. Today, however, some Anglicans are beginning to see the potential value of a ministry of universal primacy which would be exercised by the Bishop of Rome as a sign and focus of unity within a reunited Church. The Roman Catholic Church bases the ministry of Bishop of Rome upon a falsehood, for they state that Peter was given his authority from Christ as first Pope. There is no evidence Peter ever visited Rome, not to mention that he was given authority over the Church. The Scriptures correctly proclaim that Christ is the head of the Church, not the Pope or the King of England. The Pope claims the title Holy Father, but this term is only used once in the entire Bible, and that is in the Lord's Prayer to his Father shortly before his crucifixion in John chapter 17, verse 11. But the book of Revelation gives us other titles for this church. Someone once emailed me about the phrase mother of harlots, noting that seeing Rome was the mother, the harlots must be the Reformation churches. And looking around us today, that is sadly a fitting term for many of them. When the Lord talks of adultery and harlotry, he is not meaning in the physical sense, rather in the spiritual sense, worshiping other gods rather than him alone. It looks like many of these harlot churches will once again join themselves to Rome before the whole thing is judged by God for its wickedness. And I'm going to go ahead and quote from Revelation chapter 18, verses 4 and 5. And I heard a voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that you receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities. Source for this news report is The Australian and the Roots Web.